It was an October afternoon in 2015. A young woman called her brother. Her voice was shaky, fractured. Then she hung up. That was the last time anyone ever heard from Ebby Jane Steppach. She was only 18, a recent high school graduate. The night before, she had gone to a party, and the next day, she reported being gang raped by classmates. Just hours later, Ebby vanished. Her car was found in an empty stretch of Chalamont Park, not far from her home. The engine was off, the keys still in the ignition. Her purse, her phone, her contacts all left behind. But no sign she ever walked away from the car. In this video, we revisit a haunting disappearance, missed opportunities, and a family's fight for justice that still echoes to this day. Margie Foley, the mother of Ebby's best friend, joined the search like she was looking for her own child. But something felt wrong from the very beginning. The search was mostly done by neighbors. Police didn't even show up. The area? Chalamont Park, dense woods, abandoned buildings, and a storm drain that looked more like a hole in the ground. As Margie and Kay approached the drain, they were hit by a powerful stench of rot. Others had passed by and noticed it too. They did the right thing. They called the police. But when officers arrived, they glanced at the drain and shrugged. We already had dog units check this area. And that was it. No one searched the drain. No one dug. No one did anything. Until nearly 3 years later, a retired police officer returned to that exact spot and insisted the drain be opened. And from that moment, everything changed. But to understand why this case stirred such outrage across the community, we need to go back to the beginning, before she became the name behind a mysterious disappearance. Ebby Jane Steppach was just an ordinary young woman. She was born on March 31st, 1997, in Little Rock, Arkansas. The youngest of 3, she grew up with her older brother Trevor and sister Harris. And though Little Rock wasn't the safest city, it was still home. A place where Ebby created warm childhood memories and dreamed with an open heart. But like many families, life inevitably changes. Her parents, Lawrence and Lori, divorced while Ebby was still in school. A few years later, her mother remarried a man named Michael. Not every child accepts a stepfather easily, but with Ebby, it was different. She quickly bonded with Michael, treating him as a real part of the family. Their relationship was warm, respectful, something rare in homes touched by divorce. Those who knew her described Ebby as strong, resilient, and fiercely independent. Once she set her mind to something, she followed through like her dream of becoming a hairstylist, which she'd nurtured since high school. But by early 2015, things began to shift. At 18, like many young women her age, Ebby began craving freedom. She moved out of her parents' house, first staying with her grandparents, then couch hopping with friends. On the surface, she insisted everything was fine, but her behavior told a different story. She partied more, stayed out late, disappeared for nights at a time. Slowly, Ebby started drifting from school. Ebby's behavior grew increasingly rebellious, worrying her family. Still, they held on to hope that she would eventually come home. But sadly, Ebby would never get that chance again. On October 21st, 2015, Ebby skipped school and went to a party the next evening. She didn't tell anyone in her family where she was going or what her plans were. But what happened at that party changed everything. When Ebby came home the next morning, she was no longer herself. Panicked, shaking, her eyes blank, distant. When her stepfather Michael asked what had happened, Ebby broke down in tears. She couldn't keep the secret any longer. Through sobs, Ebby said she had been sexually assaulted at the party. Worse, 4 men were involved, and the entire attack had been recorded on someone's phone. Michael was stunned. But he acted quickly. He told her they needed to call the police right away. He knew Ebby needed to be protected, but she pleaded for a little more time to rest. She said she needed time to think. A few hours later, Ebby revealed she had already confronted two of the attackers and warned them she would go to the police. We don't know whether it was a real threat or simply Ebby's way of pressuring them to delete the video. But either way, that 18-year-old girl had become a target the moment she spoke up. After telling everything to Michael and confronting two of her attackers, Ebby decided to go to her grandparents' house to calm down. She spent the day there, trying to gather her thoughts and figure out her next move. At around 7:50 p.m., Ebby texted Michael. The message was short but filled with conviction. "I'm ready to go to the police." And she wanted him to go with her. To him, this was a good sign Ebby was pushing past her fear and getting ready to fight for justice. When Ebby left her grandparents' house, they said goodbye like any normal day, unaware that it would be the last time they'd ever see her. She told them she was heading to her mom's house, but she never made it there. From that moment on, Ebby vanished. At first, Michael and Lori thought their daughter was just running late, but worry quickly turned into panic as the hours passed with no text, no call, no sign of her at all. Ebby was never silent like this, especially after everything she had just been through. They began to realize something terrible had happened. Michael and Lori called Ebby all night, but she never answered. The fear grew by the hour. She didn't come home. She wasn't at her grandparents', and she never showed up at the police station like she said she would. Ebby had vanished. The next morning, October 24th, her brother Trevor received a strange phone call. It was Ebby, but her voice was vague, confused. When Trevor asked where she was, she said she was standing outside his house. But when he ran outside to look, no one was there. Trevor remembers. Ebby sounded panicked, disoriented. The only thing she said clearly was that she was sitting in a car. Then the call suddenly dropped. Trevor called back, but from that moment on no one ever heard from Ebby again. No messages. No trace. Ebby's parents immediately contacted the police, but they didn't mention the assault at the party, only that their daughter was missing. When officers learned that Ebby was 18 and had recently been acting erratically, they quickly labeled her a runaway. To them, a teenage girl disappearing wasn't considered an emergency. Police told the family they had to wait another 12 hours before they could launch an official investigation. Realizing they couldn't rely on authorities, Michael and Lori took matters into their own hands, putting up flyers, knocking on doors, begging for help. It wasn't until October 27, 3 days after Ebby vanished, that the first real clue appeared. A security guard at Chalamont Park in West Little Rock spotted an abandoned Volkswagen Passat in a wooded area near a construction site. The car had been sitting there for at least 2 days, untouched. The guard waited 2 hours before calling police. No one came. He called again. An hour later, officers finally arrived to write a report. The car belonged to Ebby. When officers examined the car, they found the battery was dead and the gas tank completely empty, as if the vehicle had been driven until it couldn't move any farther. The keys were still in the ignition, reinforcing that theory. Inside the car was a complete mess. Ebby's phone, cash, contact lenses, and other personal items were all left behind. Makeup was scattered across the seats. Ebby loved makeup. She always kept her things tidy. To her, they were like little treasures. Her mother insisted Ebby never left her belongings in such disarray, especially not her expensive cosmetics. The car was a silent scream sign that something had gone terribly wrong. Yet despite all the red flags, police still insisted she was just a runaway. That made no sense. If she ran away, why leave the car? And why was it still running? Even worse, Police didn't question anyone nearby. They didn't check for surveillance footage in the area. Their indifference left the family stunned. The shock wasn't over. After finishing their initial inspection, police left the car completely unsecured, doors unlocked, the trunk wide open, and then simply drove away as if nothing had happened. Heavy rain poured down, soaking the car's interior and likely washing away any potential evidence. The delay and inaction from law enforcement sparked outrage from both Ebby's family and the community. Why were they treating such a serious disappearance so lightly?
He was out. They were where he thought they were the whole time, and no one did anything. It's upsetting.
Want to share that Facebook status and kind of tell people?
It just made me mad because no one wanted to listen to us then, and then turns out we were right with our thought of what it might be. And I just thought people should know how poorly the Little Rock Police Department have been treating Ebby's case this whole time.
Instead of receiving support from the authorities, locals took matters into their own hands. They couldn't just sit back and watch everything get ignored. One question haunted everyone. If the car was found in such a remote area, could something have happened to Ebby nearby? Later, police claimed they brought in canine units to search the area, but many didn't believe them. Why? Because up to that point, they had done almost nothing. And if they truly thought Ebby was just a runaway, why send in search dogs? It didn't add up. There were a few pictures showing police presence, but the search effort was minimal at best. So, family, friends, and concerned residents organized their own searches, following any lead they could find. That evening, Ebby left her grandparents' house with the intention of meeting her mom. On the way, she was texting several people, including at least 2 individuals she believed were involved in the assault at the party. She threatened to go to the police, a move that might have made her attackers feel cornered. Not only that, Ebby also asked about a video that allegedly captured the incident, as if she was trying to gather proof before coming forward. Then, something strange happened. Ebby called 911 twice. Each call lasted about a minute, and both came right after those warning texts. But the Little Rock Police Department claimed they had no record of the calls. What did she say? Why wasn't there a recording? The calls were real, but somehow the evidence vanished. The mystery fueled suspicion toward the 4 young men Ebby had accused. Did they feel threatened? Did they do something to silence her permanently? But a bigger question emerged. How did they know Ebby was at her grandparents' house? Or did she agree to meet one of them that night? The car was found in Chalamont Park. Was that where the final meeting took place? Police said the case was still under investigation. But what were they really doing? No one truly knew. While the police dragged their feet, Ebby's family and local volunteers launched their own search around Chalamont Park, where her car had been abandoned. They combed through bushes, pushed into the nearby woods, clinging to the slim hope of finding a clue. Nearly a month had passed, and there was still no trace of Ebby. Then Margie Foley, the mother of Ebby's best friend, caught a strong, foul odor coming from a storm drain near where the car was found. She wasn't the only one. Others nearby said the stench was so overwhelming, they couldn't even stand close for long. Margie called the police immediately, but instead of taking action, they brushed her off. "It's probably just a dead animal," the officer replied casually. The call recording captured the officer's indifference, even slight irritation in his tone. No one returned to check that storm drain. Maybe it was too dangerous. Maybe they didn't want to face what it might mean. But the fear was spreading, not just because of the horrid smell, but because police were once again ignoring a vital warning. Residents in the area all reported the same thing, a horrible stench coming from the drain near where Ebby's car had been found. It was so strong, no one could stand near it. Yet the police calmly said, "That's just how drains smell." One officer even told the search volunteers, "That's what a drain is supposed to smell like." As if this was normal. As public pressure mounted, the police reluctantly confirmed that they had questioned the 4 young men Ebby accused at the party. But the way they handled it left everyone furious. They didn't seize phones. They didn't check digital data. They didn't dig deeper. According to reports, officers simply asked, "Did you do anything to her?" And when the men said no, that was it. No search warrants, no phone record analysis, no effort to find the video of the assault Ebby had mentioned. A potentially crucial piece of evidence, possibly on their phones, was completely ignored. Meanwhile, Ebby's family waited in agony, but the police were indifferent, sluggish, and practically inactive. A missing persons case with a direct accusation, clear signs, and specific leads was left to rot. It wasn't just frustrating, it was outrageous. And people began to ask, why? In Little Rock, everyone knows cases like this rarely go anywhere. And Ebby Steppach's case was no exception. 2 years passed. No answers, no progress, no new leads. The case had all but disappeared. In a final effort to seek justice, the Steppach family offered a $50,000 reward for any credible information. But still, nothing changed. No one came forward. No one spoke the truth. In December 2017, they appeared on the Dr. Phil show to share their heartbreak and voice their deep frustration with the police. Ebby's parents had lost all faith in the system. They knew their daughter wasn't the kind of girl who would just run away. Life had been tough at times, but Ebby was trying to pull herself together and plan for the future. Her disappearance was clearly not by choice. With no hope left in the authorities, the family hired private investigator T.J. Ward, known for his work on the Natalie Holloway case. With over 40 years of investigative experience and a reputation built on high-profile cases, T.J. Ward brought the family their first glimmer of hope in years. And his first move shocked everyone. He went directly to the security guard at Chalamont Park, the one who found Ebby's abandoned car. Incredibly, all this time, the Little Rock police had never questioned him. For the authorities, overlooking a potential witness seemed disturbingly easy. When Ward met with the park security guard himself, the man revealed something police had either never uncovered or intentionally ignored. He had seen Ebby multiple times at the park, always with the same man. They appeared intimate, often hugging and kissing. That man was Eric, Ebby's boyfriend. When the police finally reached out to Eric, he confirmed that he had met with Ebby multiple times at the park, including on the night she disappeared. This effectively ruled out the theory that Ebby had gone to meet the men she had accused at the party. Eric remembered that night clearly. Ebby seemed off. Not panicked, but deeply anxious. It was as if she sensed something terrible was about to happen. No one knows for sure if Eric was ever aware of the assault Ebby had endured, not even her friends or family. But one thing is certain. No one in the family suspects Eric. He had a solid alibi and genuinely appeared worried about her. Even as T.J. Ward continued his relentless investigation, by the 3rd year after Ebby's disappearance, the case had gone nowhere. The 4 men suspected of being involved in the attack were never named publicly. No charges, no arrests, no accountability. February 2018, nearly 3 years after Ebby disappeared, the case was handed over to a new investigator, Bruce Hudson. Unlike the officers in Little Rock, Hudson approached the case with fresh eyes and rare seriousness. As a former police officer, he quickly recognized that everything about Ebby's disappearance was unusual. One of the first things he did was return to the scene, where Ebby's car had been abandoned. On May 24, 2018, investigator Tommy Hudson visited Chalamont Park. He noticed a storm drain opening, very close to where the car had been found. It was just a round hole in the ground, with a small ladder leading down into a narrow steel pipe. The pipe stretched about 80 feet long, but was only around a foot wide, tight enough to prevent most people from crawling through, even someone as petite as Ebby. But something about it caught Tommy's attention. He ordered the team to investigate. They used long poles to probe deep inside. Around 70 feet in, the pole hit something solid. Something was blocking the pipe. Tommy gave the order to dig. They opened the end of the storm drain. And then, the thing everyone had feared was finally uncovered. A human skeleton, curled up in the tight underground space. Although testing would take time, everyone already knew what it meant. Ebby had been found. After nearly 3 painful years, the search had come to an end. A few days later, the official confirmation was released. The remains belonged to 18-year-old Ebby Steppach. Ebby's family was devastated. For 3 years, the police had let her case sit idle, and that negligence ultimately led to a tragic ending. What made people furious was this. Just weeks after Ebby went missing, multiple people had reported a strong, foul odor coming from that same storm drain. The police knew, but they ignored it. No checks, no action. Ebby had been there all along. By the time her body was discovered, it was too late. The remains were so badly decomposed that no cause of death could be determined. The police stayed silent or withheld information. No one knows exactly how Ebby died. There's no confirmed time of death. No toxic substances were identified. No clear forensic evidence. All that's left is speculation. Aside from what she told her stepfather, Michael, there's no physical evidence of the assault she had spoken about. And even though her body was found, the truth remains buried. No one has been charged. No one has been arrested. Ebby was laid to rest once her remains were identified. And many people, including myself, believe that the men she once accused are the same ones who silenced her forever. When the men found out that Ebby planned to expose them, it's believed they lured her into a trap with a promise to hand over a video as evidence. Ebby trusted them, and that's when they killed her. Her body was dumped into a narrow storm drain. Over the years, heavy rains pushed her remains deeper inside. For many, this is the most logical explanation. Motive, means, opportunity, they had it all. There's no record of any park security guard working that night. After Eric left, Ebby was alone, a perfect window for the crime to take place. Some believe the killers remain free because they have powerful connections, police, politicians, or both. Someone may be protecting them. It's a familiar and tragic pattern. The son of someone powerful commits a crime, and the system helps bury the truth. But then, a strange theory surfaced from the police, that Ebby had taken her own life by crawling into the drain herself. From the start, it didn't add up. The cover weighed over 100 pounds. Ebby was only 5'12", barely 110 pounds soaking wet. She couldn't have lifted it, climbed in, and pulled it closed behind her. Not to mention the pipe was only about a foot wide. There was no sign that Ebby wanted to end her life. She had plans to get ice cream with a friend and wanted to report the assault to the police. That's not the behavior of someone who's ready to die. It's hard to believe she would have done this to herself. Still, the police showed little urgency in finding her killer. But I believe deep down everyone knows who's responsible. Only when someone independent and determined steps forward will justice finally be served. Ebby's family deserves answers. It's been far too long, and the truth remains buried in silence. But the Steppach family's pain didn't end with Ebby. Not long after she disappeared, her brother Trevor died from a sudden heart attack. Once again, grief struck without warning. Their mother, Larray, lost both of her children in unimaginable ways. There are no words for the injustice this family has endured. They have no hope left, no time to heal. only a quiet, crushing sadness that stretches on, year after year. Then, in early 2024, the Arkansas Attorney General's office formed a cold case investigation unit. It was the first glimmer of light after nearly a decade of darkness. Since then, they've confirmed that Ebby's case is actively under investigation. I hope that, with time and persistence, the Steppach family will get the answers they deserve, and the people who hurt that girl will finally face justice and the wrath of God. If you care about stories like this, where evil hides behind a friendly face, where justice doesn't always arrive in time, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next.